Okay, so good morning. Hope you had a restful night. And I'm very happy that you made the time, to be with us for the next hour and a half or so. And again, this is our second meeting. And today we're going to discuss some more important things about our work as caregivers, professional caregivers. And we'll have a pause for 5 minutes. And you're invited again to share with each other and to share with us experiences, thoughts, questions. Part of the reason why we do this is we do think that it's important for you as caregivers being, kind of alone here, to have friends, to have a peer group, a support group. And hopefully this kind of online session and having, interaction with each other could allow you to do that. And also in the future, if you have questions, you can obviously contact us, but also each other. So this is one of the reasons why we like to encourage you to participate and to, introduce yourself to each other. I'm going to share a screen. Let's see, share screen. Share screen. Share screen. There we go. Okay. Before I say anything else, our subject today will be building and developing the relationship with our patient. Obviously, this is the first step in any kind of work, building a relationship. But before that, I'll just say, the magic of the internet, right? We're all connected through it, and hopefully you're all savvy about using the internet and Facebook and whatever other apps. And also, hopefully that this is going to be a tool not only to enable you to maintain contact and make friends and be in touch with, your activities and whatever your life is involved in, but also you may want to, try to share your knowledge and abilities using the internet and apps to assist your clients. Probably they are less savvy in that. And we talked about Corona being, an instigator of isolation and loneliness in many aspects. And you being in this situation also kind of apart and isolated from your previous life circles, you'll be using it a lot. And hopefully you'll be allowing your client to also kind of enhance his life by using this mechanism. The magic of the internet. Okay. So this is our subject for today. First, let's smile. Got to start off the day with a smile. Everybody's tense and anxious. And I just want you to know that if you smile, it's going to make you feel a whole lot better, at least for a few minutes. So first, let's smile. So building and developing a relationship with our patient. Okay. Step 1, creating good communication, coordination of expectations, building trust. Main point here, creating a caregiving alliance and taking into account social and cultural components. Okay. So first we want to talk about creating good communication. This is obvious. And I'm going to talk about 4 different types of communication styles. Maybe there are more, but these are the major ones that you need to kind of be able to identify in yourself and in the people around you in order to understand what the situation is and how to deal with it. So background a little bit, every person has a unique communication style, a way in which they interact and exchange information with others. There are 4 basic communication styles that I'll be talking about: the passive, the aggressive, the passive-aggressive, and the assertive. It's important to understand each communication style and why individuals use them. For example, the assertive communication style has been found to be the most effective because it incorporates the best aspects of all the other styles. When we break down these 4 styles, we'll better understand the characteristics of each style, standard phrases, and what makes them unique. First, we'll talk about the passive communicator. Passive communicators often display a lack of eye contact, poor body posture, and an inability to say no. Passive communicators also act in a way that states people never consider my feelings. And passive communicators are also easy to get along with as they follow orders and go with the flow. But, big but here, passive communicators, they kind of suffer because no one knows what they really feel and think. And they can definitely be taken advantage of and be misunderstood, right? If someone approaches you with something that you don't respond to, they can, if you don't respond, they might think that you agree to whatever it is that they're, that they're suggesting or talking about or instigating. So if you identify yourself as a passive communicator, I would suggest, making a big effort to change a little bit as much as possible. And also if you encounter this in your care person, your client, your patient, or people in his surroundings, it's difficult to understand what they really want and say if they're so introverted and passive. So making eye contact and displaying what it is that you understand and what you don't understand and expressing yourself in a very direct way is obviously a better type of communication. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. The aggressive communicator. Okay, aggressive communicators are very difficult. The aggressive communication style is emphasized by speaking in a loud, demanding voice, maintaining intense eye contact, and dominating or controlling others by blaming, intimidating, criticizing, threatening, attacking them, among other traits. This obviously is a very difficult type of communication style. If people behave in this way, it makes us very uncomfortable, and sometimes it's very difficult to know how to respond, okay? There's the passive aggressive. Okay, that's another type of communication we may encounter. Passive aggressive communication style users appear passive on the surface, but within, he or she may feel powerless or stuck, building up a resentment that leads to seething or acting out in subtle or indirect secret ways, right? They say one thing, but they mean something else. And then, till you understand, it's like you already suffer the consequences of their response. Most passive aggressive communicators will mutter to themselves rather than confront a person or an issue. They have difficulty acknowledging their anger or use facial expressions that don't correlate with how they feel, even deny there is a problem. So sometimes, those kind of communicators, even though they're angry, they'll smile, or even though they're, they're upset or hurt, they'll just, not show it. So those are also very difficult people to understand, because they give you double messages, right? They give one message and then there's another message that's going to come along very soon. Those are very difficult people to deal with. And of course, the assertive communicator is the easiest and most desired kind of communication that we would all try to acquire for ourselves. Assertive communicators can express their own needs, desires, ideas, feelings, while also considering the needs of others. One of the key assertive communication is using I statements such as, I feel frustrated when you are late for a meeting, or I don't have to explain this, or I don't like to explain this over and over again. It indicates ownership of feelings and behavior without blaming the other person, okay? So putting yourself into a situation where you express what you feel, what you think in a very assertive, positive way usually allows the person with you that you're trying to communicate with you to understand exactly what, what's going up, what's going down. So let's summarize. Passive communicators are emotionally dishonest, indirect, inhibited, self-denying, blaming, and apologetic. Passive aggressive communicators are emotionally dishonest, indirect, self-denying at first, and self-enhancing at the expense of others later. Aggressive communicators are inappropriately honest, direct, expressive, or attacking, blaming, controlling, self-enhancing at the expense of others. And the green one, which is the one we would, prefer to be and be around, is appropriately honest, direct, self-enhancing and expressive, self-confident, empathetic to the emotions of all involved. Being self-confident is a very important, word right here. But obviously, being in a situation where, different culture, different language, different, nothing is familiar, being self-confident is going to take time. But again, it's something that you want to find in yourself, the confidence that you have in being a good caregiver. This is your job. And everything else, hopefully, will come along with time. So tools for effective communication. Understanding how others communicate can be a key to getting your message across to them. In order to develop effective communication style, here are a few tips to keep in mind. Take ownership. Use the I statement. In other words, say what it is you feel and think. Okay, maintain eye contact, very important when you're communicating to someone and there's a language barrier or other cultural barriers. Try to take a person's eye contact, right? You want to look them in the eye so that they understand that you are very serious, right? And you're being very straightforward. Voice your needs and desires confidently, and don't forget to smile. If you do everything with a smile and with eye contact, it always makes things easier. And I don't think anyone can say something about being a smiler. It opens up all the doors. I just want to tell you that when I was interviewing people at the place that I worked, they didn't smile a lot. During our first conversation or interview, they were out the door. So first of all, first thing about communication and effective communication and good communication is to be a smiler, okay? You have to take that into account. Everything goes better with a smile and with direct eye contact because, they say that the eyes are the windows to our heart. So when you smile and look at a person in the eye, you've got their full attention. How to deal with aggressive behavior or language. Okay. Some important tips on this YouTube presentation that you can look at if you need to, and if you have time for that. I just want to say, we talked yesterday about Israelis and in general culture differences. You may encounter people talking in loud voices, using a lot of body language, if you don't understand the language and it just seems like they're yelling and shouting and communicating. Maybe you might think that they're fighting, but not necessarily so in Israel, okay? Sometimes people talk this way. If you turn on the television and you watch the talk shows, the news, you'll see people communicating, cutting into each other's talking and not being very polite on international terms. Don't say thank you or please before and after. It is what it is. It's not very pleasant if you're a stranger, but this is, not necessarily, not necessarily hostile. It's just the way people behave, and it may seem hostile to you. Okay, so, don't make judgments before you get to know the situation well. Nonverbal communication. Okay, so we all know how important nonverbal communication is. I think we all know if you've had a pet or, or any kind of animals around you, they don't speak Hebrew, Italian, French, or English. They just understand us and they listen to our commands because of maybe our facial expressions, the intonation, the rhythm, the pitch of the tone of our voice, and all of those things. And animals are very sensitive, and so are humans, okay, to different kinds of cues in our communication style. So we must be very attentive to, to ourselves, how we communicate with, without using language. At this point in time, I'm assuming that, introducing yourself to your client and his family and his surroundings is all about nonverbal communication, even though you speak English and perhaps they speak English, but there's all this other communication that goes around, by just being who you are and feeling what you're feeling. So along with the 4 communication styles, there's also the nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication is a way in which people can transfer information between them without the use of words from the spoken or written language. Nonverbal communication is expressed in facial expressions, body language, clasped hands indicate closure, tone of voice, physical gesture, standing, touching, smiling. Tools for effective communication. Active listening. Find out what is your patient's opinions, thoughts, and emotions. Try not to make assumptions and not to make judgments. Okay? Reflection. In order to make sure you understand what your patient meant, try to reflect that you understood what he said by saying, I understand that you said so-and-so. I see that. Ask many questions, many questions. I also recommend that, if there's a language barrier, as there is, obviously, English is not the native language of you or of your patient, I assume. Try to repeat what he said in the words that he used. And that gives the person the feeling of being, the affirmation that he has been heard and hopefully understood as well. Empathy. Hang on, empathy. Yes, empathy. Try to empathize with your patient even if you don't agree with him. Okay, so if you know their medical record and they're in pain and they're in some kind of discomfort and so on, that would be easier to empathize. But unless you get to know him and understand what is going on in his emotional and psychological situation, then, empathy will take time. And of course, the I message. When you talk about your opinion and thoughts, use the I, okay? This is what I think. This is what I understand. Very important. Okay, patience. Be very patient with your patient and his family. The situation is new to them, and it takes time to get to know each other. And I also add, be patient with yourself. Okay, don't be in a hurry. It's going to take time for you to adjust as well. Tolerance, even if you don't agree with your patient, try to respect his opinion. It's okay to disagree and make conversation about it and try to be tolerant, okay? About whatever issues, religion, politics, day, night, whatever, okay? We want to be tolerant and we want to be respectful, but we do want to know what is in their mind and what they're talking about, what they're thinking, yes, what their history was, what brought them to this kind of conclusions about the subject that is being discussed, okay? And of course, the nonverbal communication when talking to a patient, maintain eye contact, try to speak at eye level, relaxed speech, calm tone of voice, right? I want to talk a little bit about eye level. Very important to, eye level has many meanings. On the one hand, I assume that most of our patients, clients are sitting or laying down, right? They're not maybe standing, but even so, we want to be at eye level. When you're speaking to someone, trying to do something for them, you want to sit so that you're at eye level. Never feed someone while you're standing and he's sitting, never talk behind his his back so he can't see you. Sometimes it may not be obvious, but it's very important to be at complete eye level with the person when you're communicating or doing any kind of activity with them. And also, eye level means not to talk above them, not to talk down to them. And this is very important. Obviously, you have many more abilities and you want to be at eye level with your client or patient, not make them feel beneath you or above you. Okay, very important in terms of the way we present ourselves. Okay. So I invite you to say if there's anything on your mind this morning about communication styles, about the best way to communicate, difficulties in communication. What concerns do you have about your patient? Perhaps you've already met your patient. Maybe there's something that you'd like to share or ask. The floor is yours, everyone. Hi.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I think in a good to establish a rapport relationship with our what we call this employer or patient, we must have to establish a good relationship. Like number one is very important, which is the good communication skills. Good communication is not just about literally on how you communicate with verbally or non-verbal with your patient. It is also one of the factors we must consider also is to become a good listener to them.
Very important to be a listener. You're so right. Okay, you're so wise. Thank you for sharing. Yes, being a listener is very important. Okay, to be able to listen. Right. Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to, share something about communication? Hebrew? Anyone know a little bit of Hebrew yet? Learned from, online or?
Hello. Morning.
Good morning. Hi, Jeff.
Hello. I'd just like to share something. So when we are at the situation, already at the situation, me myself, I'd like to share what I will do about communication. First things first, when I met my employer, he's together with his son. I have to talk with the son, like I will ask some bit of information about my patient. And then after that, after gathering some information about the patient, then that's the time I have to establish rapport to my patient. So when establishing rapport to my patient, yeah, it's good to maintain eye contact level, eye level also, and always smile. Yeah, it's because smile, it's a window to everything that you're for openness. So when you open your side to the patient, slowly the patient will get to it also. He or she will be opening his feelings towards you. And generally smiles is very viral to everything that you do. um, and what else? What opinion, communication? I think it's best to open up with your patient because everything follows when you're really giving yourself to your patient. Being open makes them open also for you. Then it makes things very easy. Everything follows. And with the concern, I think it won't be difficult for communication for communicating with the patient when you're open. That's it.
Yeah.
What I think in general.
So
Thank
thank
you.
you, Jeff. Thank you for sharing. Yes, I agree with you. And you mentioned something in the beginning of how important it is to communicate with, the son of your client or patient. Yes. So I may have said it, but very important to build a relationship not just with your client or patient, but with his family and the main caregivers that are involved in his life today. Very important. You're absolutely right. You'll talk to his son, and very important to build a relationship with the son. They also have to have your trust. And I agree, when you open up and you talk about yourself, and then when you show your vulnerability as well, then people feel more at ease. Obviously, they're very vulnerable at this point. They're bearing their most intimate parts of their life and inabilities, and to a stranger. So yes, being very humble in that situation is very helpful. Thank you for sharing, Jeff. Would anyone else like to share something?
Also, I think to how to establish rapport or relationship with our patient, we must understand where she is coming from every time she reacts to something, and then um, make an effort. Give your time also to make an effort to you to get the attention of your patient. Like with my patient before, she is an Australian writer, so she loves book, and to get her attention, I want to be friend with her. So I asked her what's his favorite book, who is her favorite author, and then when she said everything, I tried to research it and tried to also read the book she likes. And then after that, I love starting reading. Actually, I have a lot of books brought to me with me now in here in Israel. Some of it are from her. So I am really treasuring those things from her. And then also her husband is happened to be an Indian. He loves Bollywood movie. So I also watch during my spare time. I also watching Bollywood movies. I I have been familiarized with some movies, which is an Indian. I met American and everything. So it's so very welcoming, and I love the pace of it, everything of it. So it's very challenging, but very assuring that you are something that you're in good pace of your life. It's very, I don't know. I'm just happy every time I deal with new thing in my life. So that's it.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. And especially you said some very important things. First of all, that, these people have enhanced your life, that through them you learned new fields of interest, and, you learned to love certain kind of books and certain kind of movies. So they've enriched your life in, things that are part of them. And also, you said something very important, that you have to take the time to get to know what makes them, what makes their life richer, what makes them feel calm, what makes them feel good. Because I assume that you're going to be part of their life, when maybe in the future, they won't be able to tell you those things, because their life will be maybe more, how should I say it, limited in their abilities. Perhaps they'll lose, the abilities or functions and so on. And by you already knowing what is important to them and what makes them happy, from a time when they could share that with you, so you can make that time for them so much more special, because they can't tell you now what makes them happy. So very important to find out all the details, not just in an intellectual aspect, but also in a very small way, what makes them smile in terms of what music they like and what smells they like, cooking smells from bread or from spices or from other things. People respond in their senses in a very positive way if they're presented with things that evoke positive emotions in them. And smells and music are very basic to that. So it's very important that you find out what it is that makes them feel comfortable and happy. We all know you put on music that makes you feel happy and you're going to smile no matter what, right? So you want to do this, be able to do that for your patient as well. And important to find that out, pretty soon, what they like, what they don't like, what makes them happy, touching them, massaging them, what kind of smells, warm water, whatever, all of those little things that make us feel more comfortable and relaxed. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's so important. Okay. Anyone else want to share about how communication can be? Okay. Okay, we'll continue. Well, you know what? Before we continue, let's take a 5-minute break. Okay, Anat, we'll take a 5-minute break and then we'll continue to our next subject. Just 5 minutes. Okay, everyone back? Continue. Anat, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so again, if you see the screen, there's another YouTube presentation here that you can download and see, tips for communicating with the elderly. Hopefully it would be of some assistance. Okay, so the next step in building a relationship is coordination of expectations. Very important, we know that. When starting a new job and starting a new relationship, each side has expectations, hopes, and concerns. Try to have an open conversation with your patient and his family, about their needs and expectations. It's important that you also express your needs and expectations and try to be honest, open, and willing to learn. Okay, that's first things first. Along the way, there may be changes in the patient's or your expectations and needs, and it's okay as long as you speak about it. If you maintain good communication, you can always talk again openly about your patient expectations and your expectations and try to re-coordinate expectations. Okay, before we continue to the next thing, I just want to say that, sometimes people have expectations that they're not really aware of. And so very important to be minded, because we are the caregiver, we are the professional in the situation. So I think it's only fair that, we take responsibility for, for controlling a situation. And if there are expectations that are not discussed, which is very natural that they would happen, then they may hinder a relationship at one point or another. And what I want to say is that, for example, I'm assuming that your patient may have expectations that they won't talk about. For example, if they're very lonely, maybe they think that having a caregiving living at home would ease their loneliness, or their, if their anxiety, or if they're unhappy, perhaps you would make them happy. People have expectations that sometimes are unrealistic. You're there to be a caregiver, and perhaps you also have expectations that may be unrealistic. For example, sometimes you feel, you want to be you want to be appreciated and loved and cared, just, like a family would care for you, being there and giving your entire, emotional everything to them. And on the other hand, maybe they're not really interested in having you as part of their family and so on. They see you as a professional caregiver and you have your place, however they define it, and so on. So again, expectations, some of them are, very obvious and are talked about, and sometimes they're not. So we must be minded to be sensitive, to what expectations are not talked about in ourselves and in our client or patient or, or boss, whatever, we are, and his family as well. Okay. Perhaps they expect you to do things that are not part of the job, or, many things can be in the air and not spoken about in the beginning. So be minded and respectful, and to be able to put limits, okay, on your own expectations and on theirs. So building trust. This is a very important part of a communication, any kind of a relationship, obviously. So what's involved? Reliability, sincerity, integrity, consistency, commitment, and competence. Okay, all of those things are very important. Talk a little bit about what it means. Trust is one's willingness to be vulnerable to another based on confidence that the other has goodwill, trustworthy component, honest, and openness. Okay, yeah, you have to trust them, and if you trust them, they'll trust you. So obviously you have your vulnerabilities, right? This is not your strong place. You don't have your family around you, your community around you, your, everything that that gives you confidence. So you're also in a vulnerable situation, and they're in a vulnerable situation, physically, emotionally, psychologically. So you have to trust each other to have a common goal, okay? It's a shared belief that you can trust someone to achieve a common goal, right? To help them, they help you. At the base of trust, there are many elements. Respect for others, okay, this is obvious. Sincerity, and this is important. You have to be sincere. You have to, communicate honestly and openly what you think and what you mean. Integrity, I think this is also very important. What you say is what you mean. Okay, you have to be honest. Openness, right? Relate what you feel as well, not be secretive. Reliability, yes, you say you're going to do something and you do it, right? And always, I would say it's imperative that in the beginning, before you do things, you voice what you're going to do. When I go to a doctor, a dentist, whatever, and I feel kind of, insecure in his hands, I don't know what to expect. I think the best way that, that to calm a person is that they tell you what they're going to do step by step. And that kind of leads you into the situation by already knowing what to expect. Yes, we're going to get up now. We're going to have breakfast. I made this. What would you like to eat? Then I'm going to, take the covers off slowly. Whatever you're doing, voice so that they have, they don't feel shocked. Maybe they're not concentrating. Maybe they're not, in tune to what's happening and would feel, anxious or be unexpected, So when you voice things and while you're doing it or before you're going to do it, it kind of gives person, comfort. Reliability, consistency, also very important. People feel very comfortable when things are consistent, okay? So even though you can do things faster, quicker, more efficient, don't. Find out how it is they do it and do it their way. And maybe slowly when they trust you, they'll let you do things a different way, okay? But in the beginning, find out how they do it, no matter how big or small, and especially in a Jewish kitchen, okay? Jewish kitchens are very sensitive areas, right? Everybody has their way of where they put this, where they put that, even not in Jewish kitchens. I don't like people coming into my kitchen or into my house and moving things. It makes me feel uncomfortable. So you have to be very sensitive about that. This is their home, their safe place, their place where security. So don't touch anything that doesn't need to be moved, you know, and adjust yourself to their place, their space, and their rhythm. Okay, as slow as it may be, you have to kind of go with their flow. Okay, and people like things to be consistent. It makes them feel comfortable. Every day we do this, that, and the other. Whatever it is that they do, that's what they want to do. Commitment, very important. You're committed, you're there for the long run. And even if things may not be to your liking or to your expectations, and you may want to change, that's fine. But in the beginning, you're committed, okay? You give your full power, 100% to make it work. Things come up and it doesn't work. It is possible for you to change employers, definitely possible. Once, twice, until you find the right place for you. But at every point in the beginning, you give it 100% of your abilities to make it work. Okay. Okay, what else? Willingness to be vulnerable, a sense of security that the trust recipient will meet expectations. Yes, okay. Goodwill, a belief that the recipient of the trust will protect the well-being of the trust giver, right? Okay, so they have to understand and believe in their heart that you are there to protect them and their property, and the only thing that's in your mind is their well-being, even if it conflicts with your own well-being. Sometimes you may be really tired, but if they need something, you have to be there for them, and they have to believe that you're going to make a 100% effort, okay, to be there for them. Reliability, a connection between predictability and goodwill. Honesty, needless to say, you must be honest. And transparency. I think this is very important, okay? You'll make mistakes, guys. Everybody makes mistakes, especially in this kind of a situation. So you make a mistake, you come forward and say, listen, I made a mistake. This happened, that happened, this broke, this went on, this went off, whatever happens. But you must come forward so that you will be, you'll be trusted, that something else won't go bad, and, not be sneaky and so on. And reciprocity. I think treating the other as we would like to be treated is the key to life anywhere in the world, right? If you treat people with respect and honesty and an open heart, this is, just what we're going to get back on a regular basis, okay? So this is what we want to do. How to build a trust and trusting relationship with our patient, okay? Remember that your patient opens his most private space to you, his home. And like you, he has concerns, expectations from this relationship, okay? Give trust and trust yourself, trust the patient, to trust the process of getting to know each other. If you trust the others, they will trust you. Always tell the truth, needless to say, okay? You're late, you're late. Tell why. If it wasn't a good reason, it wasn't a good reason, but always tell the truth. If something bothers you, don't keep it inside. Try to talk about it, okay? And again, I honestly think that it's going to be very difficult, and at times you're going to feel very lonesome, overwhelmed perhaps. I don't know what issues, who the people you're going to be taking care of, but it is a 24-hour job, and it can be very lonely and overwhelming. And I want to recommend, I can't recommend strongly enough, that you make your own schedule for things that you need, okay? Taking care of yourself. If you need to exercise, find the time to do it. Meditate, pray, whatever it is that makes you feel good, do it, okay? Make the schedule to do it, because otherwise you're going to be running out of energy. and you need to be charged. Your batteries need to be charged as well. Okay? You must take care of yourselves. When you go on an airplane, what do they tell you? First, you put the mask on yourself, and then you put the mask on whoever is unable to next to you, right? So this is very important. First, you take care of yourself. Creating the Caregiving Alliance. The Caregiving Alliance consists of 3 essential components. Agreeing on the caregiving tasks, okay, what it is you need to do. Agreeing on the goals of the care, taking care of your client or patient, and developing a personal relationship consisting of mutual positive feelings, trust, and good communication. Okay, I think this kind of sums it up, what we talked about. The Caregiving Alliance is usually determined at the beginning of a relationship between the caregiver and the patient and constitutes a primary infrastructure for the relationship between them. Okay. Use your charm, people. Smiles and charm. We all have it. Such a contract gives stability to the caregiving relationship and a sense of mutual responsibility and partnership. Okay. This is definitely a partnership. And it's probably a partnership not just with your one client, but perhaps with their husband and their entire family. Okay. I want to also suggest that in terms of communicating well, be proactive. I assume that, like yourself, you're being isolated and you know how to use the media, and you're going to continue to maintain contact through WhatsApp with your friends and Facebook and so on. And I don't know how savvy your clients are, but try to help them, okay? Try to help them. Make a list of who their children are, who their grandchildren are, what their phone numbers are. And if they're waiting for them to call, okay, you help them make the call, okay, on a regular basis, once a week, once a month, whatever. Yeah, grandma's calling to say hello. Maybe they wouldn't initiate it on their own, but you can definitely help in making a list of to-do things, okay, to-do things, where to go, what to do, things that make them feel good, things that may help them maintain the circles of the relationship and their place, their place in the family. Okay, they've lost that place. They're no longer cooking, cleaning, entertaining, etc., giving. They're in a place of being, taken care of, which could be very, very debilitating. Okay, most of us like to be on the giving side, not on the taking side. And so help them be, more proactive in their communication with their family and friends. Also make a list of friends. Yeah, help them maintain those cycles. Very important. And if there is a family, WhatsApp group or Viber group, try to give a regular report. We had a good week. We did this and that. We had a difficult week. Some days were like this. Some days were like that. Be proactive. Don't wait for them to ask you. Try to communicate to whoever it is you understand needs to be communicated to, so that they don't feel like, oh, she's calling, there's problem. Okay, call when there's not just problems. Just say, we had a great week. It was wonderful. It was this, it was that. It helps your communication with the family, as well. Be proactive. Taking into account social and cultural components. Okay, be part of the Caregiving Alliance is to take into consideration social and cultural components. You and your patient come from different culture, and you have different languages, style of communication, preferences, and beliefs. It's okay if you express your preference and to keep your customs, and it's better to talk about it with your patient and reach agreement. Try to take into account culture, values, customs, traditions of your patient. This includes food preferences, daily routine, and habits. Exactly what we talked about, Jeff. You won't be eating so much rice, or maybe you will, but they won't be eating so much rice, not 3 times a day, I assume. But you have to find out, make a list, what it is they like to, to eat, how they like to spend their time, what they like to snack on, learn how to cook for them using their spices. Be very sensitive about smells. You know, people have not aware enough about how smells affect us. So even if you're just using your soap and your shampoo and your, you know, your regular things that you're so used to, ask them if they like it. If they don't, you know, it may be offensive. I have to tell you that people are very much offended by smells and they won't feel comfortable to tell you. So you ask about all the different, the little, you know, the very little things. Dress code for sure, like you said. Is there a dress code that they'd like you to adhere to? You know, all the different little things that make it more comfortable or less comfortable for someone to be in their home, you know? Things that you may not even think of yourself. Daily routine, habits, all of those things, they're very important to learn about your client and kind of go with his routine. Again, I invite you to voice what you need, you know, what you're thinking about, what my talk has caused you to think about. What do you think is the most complex step in, you know, communication? What do you think is the easiest step? Do you have any concerns about one step or another? Anyone like to ask a question about this or something else? You're invited to do so.
The first one.
What
Do you
is the
think
most complex?
Okay, I think the most complex step to a good communication skills to our patient is same with you mentioned earlier, you discussed earlier, which is building trust. Never broke their trust because trust is very fragile. It's very hard to earn. So I think it's very important. And of course, if you have a suggestion, proper approach in order to be heard, proper approach is very important. And then because of course, sometimes based on my experience, I have different ideas on how to approach a certain situation. Every time she has some like chest infections, and then she has different ideas about it. So proper communication, of course, and be a good listener and respect whatever she wants because that's her. She knows what her body wants. She knows how to listen herself. And of course, I think in building trust, you have also to be welcoming with our culture. In order to gain trust, I always say that you have to respect their culture and be open to them what you feel, because I believe that every person has different love language, and so in communication. So that's all.
Wow, you're so wise. Yes, every person has a different way of, if I understood you correct, you love communication. Yes. Some people will say, oh, I love you, I love you, I love you.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I don't know about that. And some
Yeah.
people won't say a lot, but they'll give you a special smile or a special.
At first, honestly, at first, in my 3 days, I think she said that before. She said this one when after 2 to 3 months, she said to me that at first, honestly, I don't like this. I said, why? So then she said, because you look so strict and you so prompt and frank. So because this is my weakness, my face. I am I look so strict, so that's why I learned. I give myself to work it out, how to smile properly, when to smile, everything. And then her case was a motor neuron disease. So she is a 75 to 78 kilos. So I am just 50 kilograms that time. So I must to lift her most of the time, every time transferring from bed to wheelchair. So I give my time honestly. Also, I work it out. I enrolled myself in a gym. So but I'm thankful that since 2019 and until now, I am still working out. I work a lot, like working my core especially, because I really need that. But I am very thankful that after 1 month, I think, they initiated to buy a lifter or hoist, what we call that. And I said to her, I felt guilty at first because I thought that she's not satisfied with my work. And then I asked her, why would you buy a hoist? Because I can lift you. And then she said, no, you are so you're so small, and I am 78. She said that. And then I must also respect you because I love you. I want um I want your body to be broken because of me. Something like that. So I feel love. I feel I feel enough when her. So I am so happy that I think at that time, I think I assume that I gained her trust. I think a lot. I really love them family, and I think
Kind of lost you. Your internet connection kind of dissipated. But okay, wow. Thank you for sharing that. Yes. So yeah, they showed you. You have such a nice smile. I can't imagine thinking that you're strict. But the way that we appear at the beginning to people definitely, tints the way that they make assumptions about all of us. And we make the same assumptions about other people as well. Different faces, I don't know, you have an Asian looking face. To me, you're very beautiful, but to someone else, you may seem, strict. And also you're, in the beginning, you're anxious, you're tense, you're, all of us in a new situation. So this is what we project by, and someone else may interpret it as being strict, not just anxious and tense. So yes, thank you. Yeah, it takes time to build a real relationship of trust, and love can be shown in different ways, in different cultures. Absolutely. Okay. And very important, keep up your core, keep up your strength. You need to do that for your mental and physical being. Okay. Absolutely. Lifting a person who's almost twice your size is definitely a challenge. And I'll just say again, I think I said this before, in Israel, we do have availability of lifts and all kinds of apparatus that you may need, for physically taking care of your patient or your client. If you come across that situation, you don't need to buy them. You have to, I think you rent them or something, but they are available. Okay. Anyone else like to say something about their experience or anxieties about patients, clients that they've already met here in Israel? Hebrew, anything else in communication? Difficult language to kind of get used to if you haven't been exposed to it, different kinds of sounds.
I think Jeff would like to say something. His mic is Yes, Jeff.
Just smile. Always smile. First
Ah.
impression last.
Yes. Sometimes we forget. We get, into ourselves. We forget a little bit. But yes. Anyone else that we haven't heard from like to say something? You're welcome to ask questions about anything and everything. That's good. Not just about communication.
Hello, ma'am. Hello?
Yes, yes, we hear you.
Okay. I'd just like to know about what is the common leisure time of Israelis.
Leisure time. We never have leisure. Never.
Okay.
um, it depends, it depends on the family. I would say that between 2 and 4 in the afternoon is considered, kind of rest time. But again, some stores used to close between 2 and 4. I think today very few do. Friday afternoon, Friday is considered a short day. Most, very often people don't work in Friday at all, and it's just a half a day of shopping and so on, depending on what line of work you're in. So I would say Friday afternoon and Saturday is the day of rest for most people. How they rest is a different question, if they rest at all. I would say that it's very individual in terms of how people respond. Anat, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, actually, I thought what did I get to before?
What? I didn't hear you.
No, I think you covered it.
Okay. If you play piano, don't play between 2 and 4, or drums,
Okay.
or
My neighbor.
banjo.
My neighbor rests between 1 and 3, but the way I grew up, it was always 2 to 4. Everyone is in silence. You don't go and play on the street with kids. You respect that. But like Sarah said, I think maybe elderly, some of them may still rest.
After 11 o'clock, if you're going to be playing the music, the police will knock on your door. But up to 11 o'clock, you're fine. You can play any kind of loud music that you like, and your neighbors just have to suffer.
And also, I have one question, especially to us boys, because in my case, I have the opposite sex. Like, I'm male caregiver, and my patient is female. So, was it generally okay for the? I don't really understand about it, because when I was in Abu Dhabi, men should never touch women. But in here, in my case, I have the female patient. Was it okay to touch the um, body, like massaging, little exercising like that? I was just a little confused about it.
Well, my general feeling is that if the family asked you to come as a male caregiver, I assume that they know that this is something that's going to be part of your caregiving activities: to bathe, to wash, to dress, to feed. Perhaps we're talking also about a larger woman that and that may need the strength of a man to take care of her. And obviously, if they know this and they don't mind, then I don't think you should have any issues with, touching, even intimate parts if they're not able to do that themselves. As professional caregivers, you're expected to bathe the person and, and feed them and dress them and care for them. But I assume that if the family knows, then you should have no issues. But again, you should ask, you should ask. If you don't have a lot of experience in taking care of women, disabled women, you should always ask. And in my personal experience in caring, it's always, always, always recommended, whether you're caring for a man or a woman, you want to encourage people to do whatever they can for themselves, including their, personal body parts. So if a person can wash himself, then they should wash themselves. If they, if they need help in this place, in that place, dressing, standing, sitting, whatever. But if they're totally unable, then you have no problem doing whatever needs to be done. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I would assume that, most families would prefer to have a woman taking care of a woman or a man taking care of a man. This is usually, makes people feel more comfortable. But I'll just say this, that, Asian women on the whole are like, smaller and and slimmer. And so if you're inviting a caregiver to take care of a very large woman, I would I would think that they would automatically ask for a man to do it. So thinking that this would not, not be appropriate for a slim, thin, young, small person to do. Have you met the patient already, Jeff?
Not yet, ma'am.
Not yet. Okay. So yeah, in the beginning, I'm assuming that it might be, a little bit of a uncomfortable, but maybe not so. This is their expectations. They know what they asked for, and it should be okay.
Okay, thank you.
But it doesn't matter if you're large or small, you need to keep up your strength, right? Core.
Yes, I agree.
Because big people can, whack their back out just as easily as young people. So yes, go online and learn how to lift, how to move. There are definite ways to do it and wrong ways to do it as well.
Proper way.
I like just not really adding because you spoke about it, but just be very sensitive and share with the family or ask them to be very specific regarding them taking a shower and how if the patient cannot express herself and be very specific, and maybe private part, it will be less comfortable. So I would be very verbal with the family and be sensitive about it.
I want to share with you an experience. I had an aunt who was 103 when she passed away. And when she was living in her home with a caregiver, she was not very well taken care of. And at one point, because she didn't allow the caregiver to, she was very, how should I say it? She was very adamant not to want to be touched. And so she wasn't very well taken care of because she didn't allow her to touch her. At one point, the family had to, move her to a care facility. And once she moved to the care facility, the caregiver that took, care of her was a man. And she cooperated in a way that no one expected. And she was very well cared for. So, what I want to say is there are always surprises. We thought that, the care facility would be so bad for her, but they had no choice. And it was wonderful. It was wonderful. She loved being there. So, and she, and she allowed the man to take care of her. So again, you never know. You never know. The brain is such a wonderful, mysterious box. You never know what buttons push what.
That's a great story.
It is. It really is. She was an amazing woman. She taught me a lot about very interesting issues in life. So, hey, you never know when a woman
Yeah.
might feel very cooperative being taken care of by a loving man at the end of her life. Might be just the perfect
Perfect match.
the perfect message. Okay, anyone else have something they want to share? Okay, so on that smiling note, we can maybe end our talk for today. And again, I invite you all, not just, on any subject that you may think about. And it's an opportunity to kind of voice it with us and run it by us and see, if we can help with something.
Thank you, Sarah. It was a really good day.
Okay.
So thank you. And I'd like to add that tomorrow we will not meet online. We will see you on Wednesday at 3:30. Okay. And on Wednesday we have a special guest, a Filipino caregiver who's been here for almost 2 years, and she will share her experience. And I invite you to think about any question that comes to mind and ask her. She's very nice. All right, everyone. So have a wonderful day.
I just want to ask.
Yes,
Sorry.
yes.
I just want to ask what time on Wednesday, because my agency and employer said to me that on Wednesday, that's the time of my deployment. I am going to Jerusalem.
Mm,
It's at the
Enjoy the trip.
3:30. 3:30.
Okay, hopefully we will be able to contact you at 3:30, or you'll be, able to join us at 3:30 for maybe part of the time at least. But I highly recommend that you make the effort, tell your employer that this would be important, because I think you'll enjoy listening to Nympha. Nympha is our guest, and she has, from her own experience, valuable things to share.
Okay.
I will tell her. We message each other since Friday, I think. She messaged me first on my WhatsApp employer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll see if we can do it earlier. We will update you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you,
Bye
everyone.
for now, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So much.
Bye-bye.
Soda.